Hello everyone, good day to all of you. I hope you're all doing well. I received a comment recently asking if I could do a video discussing the budgeting of hearing protection. And that is what I'm going to talk about today, but really this is going to be an expanded discussion on just hearing protection considerations in general, because a lot of what goes into budgeting hearing protection and what unit exactly to pick also ends up being a lot of a quality assessment too, between, comparison of different units and how they perform. So it's going to be really I'm going to talk about a lot of the ones that I've had experience with and just what I look for in general. So it's not going to be exactly a review necessarily of everything that I've tried, but that will somewhat factor in. So starting with my just general criteria, what I look for when I'm selecting a pair of hearing protection. First off, I greatly do prefer outer, just ear muffs, in other words, not the inner earplugs. For reasons I will get into a lot more later, but these are just a lot more scalable, which is a big factor in this. In other words, you can take your existing hearing protection. These used to be just ComTac 3 Defenders, and you can upgrade them to be comms capable. As you can see, I got my boom mic here. I have the cables. This whole thing is set up to integrate directly into my comms setup. The second thing, and actually the much more important part that I do look for in a pair of hearing protection, is the just general reliability. Is it ruggedized? Will it hold up to, I'm not super abusive on my gear, but, I'm running around a lot and LARPing, so it has to withstand bumps and just being out in all sorts of weather conditions. So starting by talking about the Peltor ComTacs. As I said, this is an older version. These are the ComTac 3s. The ones that are most similar to this right now that are on the market are the Peltor ComTac 5s, which in general, I think for most people, the ComTacs are going to be a very good option. They're not terribly expensive. They're still expensive, don't get me wrong, but there is much more expensive versions out there. If you go with just the Defender version, for instance, it'll be about $500-ish, at least sites that I looked at, and as of recording this video, which isn't terrible. What you get for the price is a very reliable headset. I've had this for years, and been doing this in all sorts of weather and just all sorts of stuff, and these have held up really, really well. There hasn't been any degradation as far as the audio quality, which comparing it, for example, to just like the Howard Lights, for instance, the Impact Sports, I started out with those a long, long time ago, and used them for quite a few years. And something I noticed with those, they're a very much cheaper pair of electronic hearing protection. But over time, the audio got just increasingly worse and worse, just as it got, occasionally bumped up on stuff and just usage. Eventually, it just got really, really bad, and there was all sorts of chirping and just audio errors that would occur. This, as I said, had it for years, and it sounds exactly the same, very high quality as far as the audio, and the noise cancellation in this is very well done too. Now you can occasionally find these for a little bit cheaper. I got lucky when I picked these ComTac 3s up that this was right around the time when the ComTac 3s were being discontinued and phased out in favor of the ComTac 5s, which was their direct replacement. So I got these at a pretty good price, I think around $300-ish. If you want to look around for deals on like something like eBay, for instance, yeah, you might find some ComTacs at a cheaper price. But like I said, if you get brand new ComTac 5 Defenders, then they'll be about $500. And of course, keep in mind, I know myself included, I had some confusion about this originally too, but you absolutely can upgrade the ComTac Defenders into their comms capable equivalents. So moving now and comparing these to the Sordins, specifically SWAT comms, I have less experience with these, but I have tried them on occasion. Some notable differences with this one. You can see this is a neckband version instead, so you have the very reduced profile headband that goes over a hat, for instance, and then your stiff neckband in the back. So they do make a headband version as well. One little thing I will say is overall, I do like actually the headbands better. The reason for that is that while the neckbands work better, for sure, over just your conventional types of hats like this, so you can see, one place where these actually do run into an issue is with helmets. One thing I've noticed in particular, the neckband, the stiff neckband here, always likes to bump up and kind of hit against the dial, at least on this suspension system here. Maybe some of the newer suspension systems will work a bit better. This is an older style, and I'm going to discuss more on helmet setup later. Ignore some of the, if you look carefully at this helmet, yeah, there's some weird aspects to it, which not the point of the video. This is undergoing a kind of a retrofitting that I'm doing, and just waiting for more parts to come in. So some things I do like about the Sordin though is if you'll look and compare the ear cups themselves to the ComTacs, especially if you look at them from the rear, the Sordins are a much lower profile. So if you get the headband version, these can be a little bit more comfortable to wear underneath helmet. And as far as in a civilian context, which I presume everyone watching this is, and that's what I'm in, I do think that it's a good idea to have your hearing protection separate from a helmet. Even if you do a lot of stuff with the helmet, just having it as something that you can separate easily is just a lot more versatile, because you're not going to be wearing the helmet 24/7, and just being able to easily separate the hearing protection from it to wear it with a hat, for instance, like I said, like I'm doing now, or just just totally slick, then a lot easier than if you marry the earmuffs to the helmet itself. It just gets annoying. For example, back when I had my Howard Light Impact Sports, I did end up actually cutting the original headband and mounting them to my helmet, and it was pretty good whenever I did wear the helmet. I actually did that for a different reason, due to having sealing issues with that Impact Sport, which is something else I'm going to be discussing later. But it was comfortable. It was a nice setup for sure. It's just, yeah, then it requires you to be taking the helmet everywhere. Now, going back to the Swordens, overall, I do think that these are a pretty good option, but ultimately I do think that the Peltors are better. My reasoning for that is that these are just a little bit less scalable. So what I mean by that is, right now, these are just Defenders. You can convert these to be comms capable. However, all that you have to connect these is just a 3.5 millimeter, just your standard headphone jack. SWATCOM makes a boom mic and a PTT that is compatible with this, but your 3.5 millimeter jack is just nowhere near as rugged as the connection that Peltor uses. So I would be worried about converting this, and its longevity may not be as good as the Peltors are concerned. I did also want to talk about the inner, just earplugs, and why I personally don't like those. Really, for me, it mostly comes down to the fact I just have personal issues with wearing earplugs. A lot of the time I've gotten pretty bad, in some cases, with clogged earwax. So that's why I usually don't like them. One application where they do help, though, if you're doing a lot of shooting from prone and you have just your regular earmuffs on, it can be a good idea to double up on one side. Or also, if you're doing a lot of shooting in indoor ranges, to wear both the outer earmuffs like this and then pop in a pair of inner hearing protection. It's not the most comfortable for sure, but especially if you're in a louder environment like that, or if you're in prone where there's a chance that the seal might be broken when you're shooting. For example, this will really depend on your exact optic height and or the design of your stock, but it's something I've definitely noticed and ran into on occasion. So for me, if I'm shooting from prone, I can just put just a regular earplug into my right side ear, because I am a right-handed shooter, and then even if the seal is slightly compromised here, I'm still not getting hearing damage in that ear. And then to make up for that difference, I just max out the volume on my Peltors, and it comes pretty similar. Of course, you will have a reduction in the quality of your hearing when you're wearing just regular earplugs and electronic earmuffs over it, but it's not too bad. If that is something you want to run, earplugs and outer earmuffs, one option, which I haven't tried personally, but I am considering it maybe in the future, is the OpsCore amps. Heard a lot of good things about them, but not going to talk too much about them just because I don't have any personal experience with them. They do solve a lot of the issues, I will say, that I was talking about. For example, you can get helmet adapters. They're very easy to switch out from your helmet back into the standard headband setup. The main issue I have with them is that they're 1.6K, and that's just for the earmuffs. They make earplugs that interface with the outer earmuffs themselves, of course, and that's another $250 on top of that. And you do need to make sure you have the NFMI enabled actual earmuff version of the amps as well. So regarding the price compared to what you get, that's generally why I'm not recommending amps, and that's why I would still say Peltors instead, because they do work really well, and you can get several pairs of these for the price of one amp. I wanted to shift and talk about some of the smaller accessories on earmuffs. Specifically, wanted to talk about the ear cups and what to go with on that. So, of course, you have gel versus foam. 100% of the time, I would absolutely recommend going with gel cups instead. And if your specific hearing protection that you decide to go with has foam cups, I would absolutely switch those out for gels as soon as possible too. So, reason for that, they seal a lot better, especially over iPro. One other issue though, especially as you start looking at long term, so going back to those Howard Lights that I used to own, those of course just had a regular foam cup, and one thing that foam will do over time, over the years that you own it, is it'll start to harden and you'll get a compromised seal, which it's a slow degradation process. And the problem that I have with that is it's really hard to tell when it's time to just replace them, because they might be slightly hardened to start, and they're still totally viable for hearing protection. But at some point it is going to compromise the seal and you're going to start damaging your hearing. And that's not to say that gel cups last forever. I actually did just recently replace these because my gel cups, the old ones that originally came with this, gave out just about a month ago, a few weeks ago. And the nice thing is that even when these give out, so for example, what happened with mine is that the epoxy between the plate backer and the cup itself started to leak out a bit of gel. Even when that happens though, I still had a perfectly effective seal. It was just kind of gross because the gel was getting everywhere that it rubbed up against. So it was easy. I was just able to order a replacement pair, and in the meantime I still had these usable, and then just popped the new ones back on and it was good to go. So to conclude, my own personal recommendation would be to go with a pair of ComTac Defenders to start out. Like I said, even though at the start you might be just as well served with a pair of Sordens or even just a pair of the Howard Lights, although those definitely don't have the longevity. If you ever do want to upgrade this, it's a lot cheaper in the long run because you don't need to buy an entirely different, distinct pair of earmuffs. You can just go with the ones you already own and then pop on the boom mic if you want to do a comm setup, or if you do get into a helmet, you know, for night vision, it's pretty easy to just wear these underneath the helmet. Not really an issue there either. And of course, as far as the price is concerned, these are not the most cheap, not the most expensive either, you know, comparing them to the amps. And these will last you for a super long time as well. Like I said, had these for years. You can actually still find the original review that I did on these back when I first got them, or just a few weeks after it. And yeah, they've held up 100% perfectly fine. If you have any other questions, or if you want to add your own experiences with your own type of hearing protection, or just if you have something different you would recommend, then by all means, I would love to hear that. If you want to leave that in the comments below. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope that it was informative especially, and take care. Hope to see you all in the next one. See you then.